Okay, good. See if you can sign in now. Whatever. Sorry. No, I see nobody else logged in, just us, one. Brian, I might need your help. It says it's recording, but Kelly can't log in. Okay,
So it's just.
we're good now. Come on in. Okay, Kelly? Okay, I see Justin. Well, thank you. Thanks for everything. Thanks for checking in. Okay, that helps. Yeah.
Hey, Sherry, are you able to hear me?
And loud and clear.
Okay, good. Just wanted to check. Thanks.
Our presenter said she'll be here in about 5 minutes. So I hope that's okay with everyone. Be respectful of your time, but I hope 5 minutes will be fine. Okay. Thank you.
For shredded. It's shredded. Yeah. As I said, they keep track. Oh, it was the presenter last time. It said it's one place that's not shredded. That was. The presenter that said shredded paper is one place that does take it.
Karen? I don't remember because I did it wrong.
So. I know, I feel bad. I shred a lot.
No, I mean, I learned. And you know what? As long as I learn it, I make a mistake. Part of the education and awareness.
Yeah, it was just shredded. Okay, just that's what the presenter said. Yeah. Shreds all through. Yeah, they're shreds in the back. The back is shredded. Shreds in the back, they don't get recycled, they fall into the process.
downstairs.
Process the last meeting. Started design.
Hello? Yes, we're all in the library. Fantastic, come on in. Okay, speakers here. That's it, we'll start. Where you comfortable? Hello. Here, podium, or wherever you're comfortable.
Great.
Okay.
The mask more is what.
But what we would like to do is speak in the microphone,
Wherever you're comfortable. Okay, I think we'll get started. I'd like to start the meeting of the Services and Utilities Committee meeting. It's a little bit after 6. It's 10 after, Tuesday, March 15th. I'd like to introduce Zoe Epistor of Rust Belt Riders. First, just recognize and thank Mayor Brennan for being here, and Service Director John Pokorny, committee members, other members of council, and residents who are here on Zoom and in person. Just to remind you, the primary objective of the Service Utilities and Committee meeting at this point in time is to continue following the recommendations of the May 2020 solid waste study. That first recommendation is education, awareness, and program promotion, so we can improve University Heights rubbish, recycle, yard waste, and paper program. So tonight's first agenda item addresses increasing awareness about composting as a sustainable option for some of our trash. Through up-to-date information, we can increase awareness to update our habits and implement viable alternatives to increasing the landfills. 40% of all food ends up in the landfill or generates methane, a greenhouse gas more toxic than carbon, but it doesn't have to. Food waste is a generative resource we can compost to make healthy, living soil. Today's specific objective is to increase our awareness about the details of composting. We're glad to have Zoe Epistor here. She is passionate about taking the small actions in our everyday lives that lead us further into whole systems work. Her scope of work has included organic farming, nonprofit development, early childhood education, and now is the Director of Residential Services for Rust Belt Riders. She finds herself squarely in the middle of the food system. The networking, Zoe may be sewing at home, hiking with her dog, playing music, or enjoying her family and friends. Please.
Thank you. Thank you everybody for being here tonight. As was shared, I'm here on behalf of Rust Belt Riders to talk about our work in food waste management, composting, and compost education. So I'll just get started sharing a bit about our services, both services that are currently being offered to University Heights residents, how we can increase education as it pertains to composting for University Heights residents, and the work that we already do with schools and other community groups who we are involved with. So as one branch of Rust Belt Riders, I represent our residential services department, and that is comprised of 2 main areas of focus. We have a residential pickup program and a neighborhood drop-off program. The pickup program, both of which are already being offered to University Heights residents. We have about 30 in total that are taking part in both programs. There's definitely room for expansion there. And our pickup program, both are subscription-based services. So we operate as what we like to call for more than profit business. And as such, we have a fee for service for the home pickup program, which is $30 a month when you pay annually, and that gives you weekly food scrap removal from curbside or from your doorstep. So our drop-off program runs $10 a month, and we set up neighborhood drop-off bins blocking bins where people can come and drop off all of their food scraps that are generated from their kitchen. So something that is unique to us about Riders Services is that we are able to compost everything. So there may be, things that you might not ordinarily think could go into a compost pile: citrus peels, meat, bones, dairy, that, compostable toothbrush that, you were gifted for Hanukkah or Christmas. And we can accept all of those things. We operate on a commercial scale, so we temperature monitor our piles to make sure that no weeds, seeds, or pathogens are able to survive after the composting process has finished. But because we monitor our piles, what does survive are microbes and fungus and the things, the organisms that contribute to our living soil products that are sold through another branch of our company called Tilth Soil. So for our neighborhood drop-off program, individuals that sign up can live anywhere. That's why, folks, while we don't have a neighborhood drop-off program or location presently within the University Heights city limits, there are other drop-off locations nearby, and folks can participate in that program from anywhere they live. There's a locking combination bin, and when you sign up, you get that 4-digit code that gives you access to the bin. We also offer individuals access to our Better Bin app, which gives you an idea when you can use that app on the web on a web browser or download it for iOS or Android. And that gives you the ability to search any product. So that's one of the ways that we prevent contamination and give members the ability to, at their fingertips, find out if this, Keurig compostable K-cup is accepted. It's, sort of like, okay, yeah, sure, I get it. Like there's my vegetable scraps, my eggshells, my coffee grounds, I can put that in, but can I put in this other product that's being marketed as sustainable or green? So we currently have 20 neighborhood drop-off sites around the greater Cleveland area, and in total, just over 1,500 members that are participating in the drop-off program. Our pickup service hosts 700 members for to-your-door pickup. And in order to uphold our promise and part of our mission of providing education to our community, we offer workshops that are free and accessible to our members and to the community at large. Though the difference there is that if you're a member, you get access for free, and if you are somebody in the community at large who composts at home or doesn't compost at all or wants something next to you with your family or friends, there are fee for a workshop. And those workshops include things like how to compost at home, seed starting 101. Sometimes we do bouquet making with one of the local flower farmers who uses our soil on her farm. And there's really a number of things. What I find a number of our drop-off posts and commercial partners have taken advantage of is the ability to ask for a workshop that might be specific to what they're interested in learning. So I've talked to a number of students recently, which I really enjoyed having them reach out to us rather than their teacher or their administration and ask for workshops on, most recently it was soil microbiology. So we were able to respond directly to them to host a workshop just for that student group. So if there's also on our website resources where individuals, if you are interested in finding out more about backyard composting, we can advise you on how to do that, along with a zine or a small short magazine that describes the process that we recommend for backyard composting. And I think I will pause there to provide an opportunity for questions, talk about our residential services, our workshops for educational component, and then the neighborhood drop-off site, which not currently, which there's one not currently in University Heights, but we would love to be welcomed here as well. So that said, are there any questions for me?
I have some questions.
Great.
First of all, thank you very much.
Sure.
I didn't realize all the things you do. It's great.
You've been left out a few for time.
Okay, so, when someone's composting, collecting it in their home, do they generally do it indoors, outdoors? Is there an odor? Are there containers that control odors? If it's outdoors, does it attract animals?
Sure, that's a great
Just
question.
kind of practical.
Yeah, definitely the practical application of what, if we're gonna compost your food scraps, are you actually going to do with your food scraps between cooking and getting your soil back? We recommend that people use a 5-gallon bucket to store their food scraps in a cool, shady place. I know summertime is coming, so in the wintertime, no problem. Stick your bucket outside. It's like fall and winter are perfect food scrap collection times if you're, really getting into the bucket. But in the spring and summertime, you want to keep it in a shady, cool spot. You can line that bucket, as we do for our pickup members, with a brown paper bag. Nothing too special. That brown paper bag helps absorb some of the natural moisture that's created from food scraps. And it's customizable to your home aesthetic and flow. So you can keep that 5-gallon bucket in your garage, on your back step, underneath your kitchen sink, in your pantry, on your back porch, on your front porch, really anywhere that's gonna work for you and be in a convenient place. If you're somebody that wants to keep your bucket in your kitchen and just pop the lid, as I do, and toss your food scraps in and close it, that's great. If you are really not into that, you're like, oh, 5-gallon bucket in my kitchen, no way. I recommend you keep it in your garage or anywhere else I just listed and use a small transfer container from your kitchen to your bucket. So that could be anything from, a leftover salad container, a large Tupperware, a small 2-gallon bucket, up to something a little bit more, I don't want to say fancy, but more manufactured, that is like a stainless steel compostable food waste collection bin. They make them in plastic and ceramic as well, but there are lots of different options for people to choose from. The question on odor sharing is a really interesting one, because the process of composting begins as soon as you create the waste. So that's
Maybe
maybe a
start to die when we're born.
sure.
Same thing.
Yeah. So that is both how would my grandfather put it? I guess it's a little cheeky, I think, to say it that way, but facetious, that's it. Being a little facetious there. So if you have some leftovers that went bad in the fridge, they're gonna smell a bit. Like we've been there, we've all been there. If you are, if it's the summertime and you just or let's say even it's the spring and you made a soup and it's a warm day and you leave your bucket in the sun, and you put that soup in there and then it like cooks for a few days, it's gonna have a small odor, like, the digestion of food scraps do. But we offer, we can offer a workshop on like how to collect your food scraps for the best experience. In short, I'll give you a preview into that workshop. I always recommend that people add a small amount, 1 handful of shredded paper on top of their food scraps when they're collecting it in the bucket. It helps absorb some of the moisture and keep some of the naturally occurring, odors of coffee grounds or orange peels, or maybe some applesauce down. So no, it doesn't smell too much when you are appropriately collecting your waste.
Should have kept my shredded.
I was gonna say, we were just talking about what to do with our shredded paper.
Small amounts, small handfuls, so in the
A
past.
handful each time, or just a handful total?
I'm sorry.
Like a handful each time you throw something away, or is it just a handful just once?
Once you begin the experience of collecting your waste, you will see that it's not necessarily a handful each time as much as it is like a light covering. If you're if you clean out your refrigerator or you have a large familial meal, right? Or, an outside pot, there's like a lot of food scraps in there. It's nice to just be able to give it a little cover, but we are a composting company first and foremost, not a recycling business. So I always recommend that people please be prudent with that tip.
Can I offer some of my own experience? from
Please,
that
yes.
composting? It's great to meet you. So, my house came last couple months. So I've been, my wife and I have been backyard composting for 3 years. We have a compost bin under one of the city's, seminars on but what I want to say is, the smell really only comes into that when you have a container open, at least from my experience. We collect in a small container indoors. Maybe once a week to our backyard. As long as the container's closed, the smell is.
Good to know. I mean, I think of the trash, and when things start to ferment or within a couple days, day 2 on. That's probably what's.
I'm glad, thank you for
Yeah,
hearing
thank you.
that. It also jogged my memory of your original question, which was part of like, do animals
Yes.
come? So, if you are keeping your lid on your bucket, the animals will not come. We recommend, we have buckets for sale. There's nothing too special about them, except that they have our logo on them and their lid is like very secure. There are also screw top lids that we can recommend, very secure. And Sherry, when you mentioned trash, it also reminded me that your trash won't stink anymore.
Right.
When you start diverting your food waste into a different container, you will have less trash. So if we think about the days maybe when we did not recycle, or what it might feel like if you were like putting your trash and your recycling in one container and that volume, if you can imagine what that volume is. Now we've started diverting our recyclables most of the time when possible. Of course, we are all human and some things occasionally slip into the trash or recyclable in my home. And so it's one extra step of waste diversion that can create your home waste stream, that helps your home waste stream be more clean. And it will make your trash smaller and less odorous.
Is it a month-to-month commitment, a year commitment? How does that, when somebody signs up?
For our neighborhood drop-off program, we offer 2 subscription types. One is a month-to-month commitment program, runs $10 a month, cancel any time, billed on the same date of every month. And the yearly subscription, while we don't offer a discount for the yearly subscription, we do ask for that longer commitment time. And there are some folks who just like to pay it once and forget about it. And so we offer that for them after hearing from them that they really needed it. So, that's for our drop-off program. Our pickup program offers 3 subscription tiers. There is a month-to-month option that is a cancel anytime program, and then there are 2 other tiers, a semi-annual or 6-month billing period, an annual or 12-month billing period, which are commitment-based programs.
How does someone sign up?
You can go to our website, rustbeltriders.com, and there's a join us button. You can click our services to find our pickup or drop-off pages. And you can also find our drop-off location details page under the FAQ tab, which lists all of our locations and how to access them. So if you're curious about what other locations look like, where they are, how you might, oh, I go to the Shaker Lake Nature Center once a month. That's great. So we have one there, but you can find all that information on our website. And the other thing that's on our website is our phone number. So if you wanted to give us a call, the residential extension is 2, to give us a call and talk about services.
Anybody have questions?
Sure.
Yes. Michelle has a
So
question.
can you talk a bit about your partnerships with municipalities and what would be required of University Heights to be a drop-off location municipality?
Sure, thank you. So if University Heights were to partner with Rust Belt Riders for a municipal partnership, there would be very little ask of the city in this iteration of our neighborhood drop-off program. All that is really asked is that we find a great location for the University Heights residents to be able to have easy access to the containers. Rust Belt Riders does the administrative bulk of program management. So tracking membership, communicating with members, helping to troubleshoot on-site issues that might pop up, either because we get a special call from a member or when we are servicing the containers, which happens weekly by our commercial hauling team with a full container swap. So every container is always swapped out from each site. We never leave a dirty container on site.
How often? I'm sorry, did you say?
Weekly. And I do like to ask of our site hosts the ability to have somebody, on call for us or coordinate when, in the event that there is a, parking lot closure, if we're to go in a parking lot, or a snow plow issue, or, somebody was having an event and the bins needed to move for a 24-hour period, that there be a site host that would be in communication with me about special circumstances, like the ones just listed.
Would that, Mayor Brennan, would that fall under administration or what do you think?
Yeah, I think that would fall under administration. I have spoken with Zoe previously, and I find the idea positive overall.
What?
I find this to be a positive idea overall, and I favor finding some kind of finding a way to work together. I think I've asked you this before in another context, but I'm going to ask here so we have the ask on the record. You're able to keep track of how much is composted overall. If we were to situate bins in university funds, so that when we get a number then which is then reported to the county, so our overall solid waste report would reflect the fact that there are increases in compost.
Yeah, definitely. So we every time the bins are serviced, the bins are 64 gallon size. So every time those bins are serviced, they get weighed as well. And that weight goes into our tracking app and that our drivers use for dispatch. And we're able to pull weekly, monthly, daily reports, you know, as much as you might want or need, that can tell you how much waste is being kept out of the landfill in the drop-off program. We also have that ability through the same map to do for our pickup residents. So if there's interest from the city in encouraging both programs or any kind of diversion or doing a larger composting awareness campaign, only expect quality data reporting from us.
Yeah, I would simply add that everybody here knows that our recycling rate is very low, but our composting rate is actually rather good based upon the strong program our service department has with yard waste and when craft bags are put on the curb with weeds and other yard waste, that's all compost. And that all counts for our compost. This is an opportunity to boost that up. Mr. King and I both have backyard composting, and there's certain things that you can do in the backyard that do minimize the solid waste. Of course, those things don't have to count because nobody knows by the way what we have in the backyard.
It's okay, we won't.
Thank you. But more importantly, there are things that you cannot compost in the backyard. You can compost using a service like this, such as meat scraps and animal bones and things like that, which you need an industrial composter to compost. There are certain things, certain packaging, that this package is compostable, so you're not going to be able to compost that very easily. But in an industrial composting situation, that can be composted. So you know, currently, University Heights residents can, and a few already do have Rust Belt writers subscriptions. But the unique thing that we would be able to do administratively would be to find a place where there can be a drop off. And the maintenance aspect of it is fairly minimal on our part. It should not present much, if any, of the burden of additional work for our service department. But what it can do is give the residents who are already driving back to the park in South Euclid or to Shaker Nature Center an opportunity to have a closer drop off for these items. We start getting credit for them as a municipality, and it's a step in the right direction. Other parts of the country, like Portland, on the West Coast, Oakland, and so on, they have curbside compost. It's 3 days. It's pretty wild to think about. But we're nowhere near that in this part of the country. But this is a unique service that we could offer that kind of looks in that direction. And I can report also that more things that go in there, I can confirm the trash doesn't smell the same. And it's really not compost in. I don't smell it when it's closed.
Not that I have a smart kitchen.
No, my wife and I have to scan what's that smell. It's not usually compost.
Well, we have that name at work too.
Yeah, thank you. So, thank you for coming. Sure. It's very informative. I had the same question that Councilman Gold had on Zoom, just with a little caveat. So, Bexley and Shaker Blades are the closest to us, right? There's no other. Do you have a limit on, let's say, Cleveland Heights, Beachville, and Shaker Heights all decided they all want to do it? Is there a limit that
No.
the municipality can't pick up the boxes? It's too close.
That's a great question. There's no limit. In fact, I don't believe that anybody should have to drive their compost to one of our bins. 1.5 to 2 miles max apart. That's probably our limit for how close they can be together. Ideally, if you're having to drive an extra 5 miles or 10 minutes out of your way to drop off your food scraps, one of my other team members or I with a little more time to do the environmental analysis there, but it's not ideal. So the closer together, the better.
Okay, great. So, and I think this is a great idea here. I think we probably the only thing to think about is the probably have to PCA if we wanted to pursue that. Because I know with other, there's a closed collection bin, that is There's a couple things like that.
Yeah, that may be true. If it's on city property, it may not be necessary technically, but you know, but hear me out. One of the reasons I'm glad to have somebody here this week is even if the whole thing could be done administratively, it didn't require council action, it promotes the fact that the city is looking for ways to encourage this kind of activity. And it may be that it may be a matter of form and PCA, even if it weren't technically necessary. It's probably a question. But it may not be a bad idea, only because it just promotes further exposure that the city is doing this and invites comment and hopefully invites participation.
So is there an agreement or something, some sort of written document with the city?
You know, we like to have we are implementing a memorandum of understanding between all of our partners. It's not, we don't require it to be notarized or go to legal counsel. It's more of a formalization of the, how do you say, gentleman's handshake or whatever, maybe the person's handshake now to de-gender that term, but yeah, it's, you know, and it really states, also helps clear expectations.
Yes, of course.
So when when we look at the question of, is there gonna be any additional work for the city service department if there were to be a partnership? No. In short, what we ask is that, and this is up on my process, is that when seasons change, I reach out to our site hosts, either city service directors, when we have like a property manager or other sites to say, hey, the seasons are changing, this is what's on deck, who's your plow company, can you help remind them that the bins need to stay available, right? We said let's see what happened, the summertime, we increased service to twice a week in the summertime. So if there were to be, for example, a site opened in the winter time, we 2 bins right away on the first site, they come out. Winter time, they get serviced once a week until we hit a certain number of people or the weather changes. And I monitor how many people are using the containers. And of course, we'll monitor the weather. Hopefully, we walk outside. But especially for me, when we're thinking about it as a logistics company, what are the effects of the weather on our services and on our members' experience of those services? And so we increase the site servicing to twice a week in the summertime. And that's really just a, hey, site host, we're going to be around twice a week. Thank you, you need from us kind of email.
Just for additional discussion. My view, when we're talking about a potential site in University Heights, I'm considering city property, and I'm considering not the service yard, because the service yard is already very jam-packed, and we don't necessarily want to increase traffic in the service yard. But across from the back of the service yard is more expensive. Part there is a parking lot that we do take care of. There are new spaces, and perhaps parking lot space. This is something that's important. I can walk and take a look and so and see if there's an appropriate spot there, because then the traffic is over there. It's visible. It's also out in the open so that it's not too confined. And it's close to the service yard, should you keep an eye on it. It's also right by the traffic bureau, so they can keep an eye on it too. And at the same time, people will see it and they'll know that, hey, this is an option. We want to do this in our community, and they don't have to look very hard to find it. Once it goes on the website, it would be safe.
I had asked Zoe about, possible placement, and you mentioned that, and I asked, how big is it? Like to take up the whole, and you said it's about a third of the spot?
It's about a third of the spot when we start. When we look for locations, we like to look for places that that people already know about. It needs to be accessible 24/7 for our project guidelines. And we like to have it co-located with a public park or a recycling container. So when you think about our services, what we are asking for, promoting, but also is promoted by our site hosts and other municipalities that we're partnering with, is a small lifestyle change that leads to a very large environmental impact in a positive way. So it's, you know, Henry, I've been thinking about this, but if I were in a city's shoes, I might think like, what am I asking of our residents? Am I asking them to just like throw their waste in the trash? Or am I gonna ask them to help us make regional compost and soil to benefit our farmers and gardeners? And so there's a real, I think there's a real potency to the latter when you start to think about handling your waste, and even to go so far as to say respecting the food that passes through your home, which also respects the farmers that grew it, the transportation department that brought it to your house, and full circle nature of what our work provides.
A few more comments, if that's okay?
Sure.
Sorry.
Just as better acknowledgement, I want to acknowledge Jeff Pearl is here. Mr. Pearl sat on a meeting that we also had. So Mr. Pearl's on our sustainability committee. So just kind of bringing all that full circle. This is work and you know, happy to see interest across the board.
Thank you for joining us. A couple more questions. So, has there been any type of vandalism or any problems like that with your sites?
No.
Okay, good.
When we started, one site host asked us to chain the bins to the fence that they were adjacent to, and that quickly phased out. They realized that people really, I mean, the bins are quite heavy when they get full, and people really are uninterested in food waste as something to.
Yeah, you might have some mischief, you know, and I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, thank you, no issues.
You know, and about, just to follow your train of thought about respecting the food and respecting, it's also respecting the service personnel. You know, if we can take that off of the tonnage, you know, it could make a nice difference. So I think that's great. How about, do you reach out to restaurants and, or, you know, those types of places that have, I would think, a larger contribution?
Yeah, so, and that is, thank you for asking, one of the components that I left out when I initially started on our services. We started as a commercial composting business, so we only worked with restaurants, office buildings, events on a commercial level. So, you know, some of our clients include anybody, we host anybody from as small as like a two-person office to institutions like Case Western Reserve, the Cleveland Clinic, university hospitals, and most recently Hyman's. So we are able to go on this full journey from, you know, household, grocery store, hospital, places that everybody, you're interacting with food at all of these places. So yes, we service on a commercial level.
I wonder if there's some sort of, you know, if we pursue this, some sort of outreach that we can do with our University Heights businesses or get John Carter University, and just kind of putting that out there to really give this a boost in a nice bar city.
I may have left, I left out, but I see JCU does also compost.
Oh,
with
great.
us. I know that we are picking up their sustainability house. Though
Sorry?
from their sustainability house, they have like a small sustainability group of students that like live together, like a dormitory style household. And at least that's how it was a year and a half ago, or 2 years when I picked up for commercial services. But don't quote me on that active contract or not. I'm the residential.
Okay, resident, we'll stick to residential.
Yeah.
As long as you're not telling us it's one better.
Yeah.
Right.
Bunks, bunk beds.
Of course, Mike did such a great job with our last, somehow incorporate this, keep this top of mind, give it a nice, publicity when it's trying to. Any other questions?
And, we do a paper recycling things at the service, excuse me, the service area. Maybe consider, centralization.
I have a follow-up question, if I may. And forgive me for not knowing the geography of University Heights, but the service yard where those recycling bins are and the wall that's shared, are those near each other in parts of the city? They're pretty close to each other? Or, okay, so I was asking because, today I visited our second site that will be opening in Bay Village. So they have one on like the far west side, and there's about 60 people that participate in that. And some of their east side residents were lamenting that they're like, I either can't participate or I have to drive all the way to the west side, and it doesn't make any sense. And so we worked with their green team and their service director to find a second site in a different part of the city. So any location in one part of the city seem to go well, and residents are excited about it. We always say that our second site, if interested, could be open in another part of the city to increase accessibility.
Nice. East, west.
Maybe north, south.
So what are next steps? How does this work? I knew.
Yeah, I mean,
Up here.
I don't know if we actually visual action. Maybe feels as if we want to make a recommendation. Do that, I'm intending to do that either way, but certainly mind the enforcement committee to keep facilities. Same thing, to find this initial site, could be site to site, perhaps not discover.
Of course.
That's Mr. Cooney's point. I had really contemplated whether we move other recycling bins to. I know that one of the things that Crestwell Ranch prefers is that 24-hour access be made available for their bins. We do not do that normally. We don't do that with our service. We do have set up rules and discourage people from using that time. Which would be a reason that it's happening on that part, happening across the street, it makes sense. And discuss further, whether it makes sense.
Our current recycling bins tend to be rather messy also, so you don't want to incorporate anything else over there that would either add to it or cause a mess, which would prevent them from taking off of those kinds.
Perhaps this is something we can revisit with our facilities assessment of the service yard and expanding it at some point, if that makes sense.
I think there's something we probably do before.
Oh, before that, but I'm just saying, we talk about a second location or something. We'll see, we can assess that in due time. To Mr. Cooney's, Councilman Cooney's point.
Yes, but also Mr. Corney's point, I have seen Harper been, on Sunday afternoon, and it's I wouldn't want that. Something that yards that there. We don't want to blow it across. And I've seen even similar paper at sites like middle schools and so on, where container fills and then blows the whole thing. So see.
Okay, so just to recap, are there any more questions? Comments? Great, thank you for a wonderful discussion and presentation. So basically, this will come up in with a committee report to council and a recommendation or a suggestion or to administration to please proceed. See what we can do.
Certainly going to do consideration.
Thank you. Consideration.
Mainly to incorporate this in what we offer.
Wonderful. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very
Thank you so
much.
much.
Definitely, nice to meet you all.
Same here.
Councilman, you can have this committee refer to the administration formally also.
Okay, so how do we do that now? I just say that? Like to make a motion to formally recommend to administration to pursue or consider pursuing composting bin from Rust Belt Riders in a location that's central and accessible and will help us move forward with our composting.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Okay, what?
You should take a look.
Oh, can we please vote?
Just like that.
The committee.
The committee.
Aye.
You're on. Okay, and so it passes.
No, good, thank you. I appreciate the committee's support on this. And that's the, so we can see if we can come to terms supporting.
Just as a postscript, I had never heard of this before. Like I said, I'm like Exhibit A. I've been recycling wrong and all that sort of thing I'm learning, and I'm very much enjoying it. I believe it was an email from maybe somebody named Mr. Regal. I'm not sure, from a resident who brought it to my attention, and then a couple of people, and I very much appreciate that. A couple of things that were suggested have been very interesting, and I look forward to composting, especially since I think we make about 98% of what we eat, so it's a lot going on.
To Mrs. Weiss's point about BCA, I may as well disclose it because the email's not on the record, but Mr.
You know,
Jack.
louder?
Oh, yes, yes. I mean, I don't mind disclosing this because it is a public record. Mr. Jaffe, Ari Jaffe, who's the president of our chair of our BCA, has also expressed in an email to me his support that he find a greatest team person. So, though we take it easy, I have a pretty good idea that, granted, everyone involved, code and everything, make sure that those considerations are met, but they won't project, at least he won't project it out to you because he uses positive.
Great. Okay. So we'll move on to the second item, which is continuing discussion amongst committee members regarding recycling. Okay. So I'd like to give some updates from last month's meeting where we had Karen Miller from the Cuyahoga County Solid Waste District present on the do's and don'ts of recycling. So since that time, I've had the pleasure of meeting with and speaking to quite a variety of stakeholders at all stages of the rubbish collection, from homeowners in University Heights and throughout Cuyahoga County to service staff, directors here in University Heights, neighboring cities, directors and managers of the Cuyahoga County Solid Waste District, the Materials Recycling Facility, MRF, Kimball, Rust Belt Riders, among others. So I've tried to do some due diligence to get as much information as I could get, the pros, the cons, the questions, and that sort of thing. So that's what I'm going to be sharing with you tonight to help us have a meaningful discussion with some ideas of practical ideas of how we can improve our recycling. So, just as a note, Mayor Brennan has confirmed that the customer service survey will not be mailed, and that has resulted in continuation of backyard rubbish collection in the absence of a survey preference for an alternative. But what I'd really like to start with is basically agreeing upon goals and objectives, just two simple things. One, are we in agreement that we want to improve University Heights rubbish collection costs? And two, that we want to improve University Heights recycling rate, which can contribute to the overall collection costs. Do we agree to that as a committee? Okay. So now that we're on the same team, let's get on the same page. So that we can do away with accusations of embracing the idea that we want to end recycling pickup. We don't. We want to move forward. So one of the things that's a basic observation to me is our recycling program is opt-in. People choose, residents choose to recycle, and there are residents that choose not to recycle. Okay? According to this report card that we all received at the last meeting from the Solid Waste District, the 2020 annual report, University Heights recycling rate is 5%, and Mayor Brennan recently stated that the 2021 report will indicate a 4%. We're moving in the wrong direction. And I think I heard that 96% of our recycling is contaminated. Is that correct?
That's not correct.
Okay, can you tell me what that last part is?
I didn't know that, never I knew.
Okay, so there is unacceptable low contaminated recycling.
I don't think we have any figures on that.
We do not have any figures on how contaminated our waste is.
Okay.
My impression is that somebody took 4%.
Oh, it's subtracted it from 100.
But
That
that's
doesn't mean
the only thing I can guess, and I don't actually know.
Okay.
But the 100 from which the 4 is taken is the full solid waste that is generated in University Heights,
I understand.
not 96% of site.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. So I reviewed this with the executive director and assistant director at the Solid Waste District because I really wanted to understand what I was reading in the annual report. And according to this, there are a couple of other cities, Pepper Pike and Shaker Heights, for instance, that also have backyard collection, trash collection. But their rates are double ours. One is 9%, one is 11%, and that's noteworthy. So I went to Pepper Pike, I spoke with Jim Advent, who's their director there, and I have a meeting with Shaker Heights this week, and I wanted to find out some of their practices. What are they doing with backyard rubbish collection that's resulting in twice the recycling rate that we have? And so a little more on that later. So some other facts is that neighboring cities like South Euclid, it has complete curbside collection, rubbish and recycling, and Beechwood. South Euclid is performing at a 10%, which is a little less than Pepper Pike, a little more than Shaker, but basically the same amount, even though everything's at the curb and it's automated. Beechwood's at 13%, which is essentially the same, despite automated curbside recycling. So it's not the curbside that is impacting the recycling rate, okay? And I asked Karen Miller at the Solid Waste District, what's the goal? Is it 100%? Somewhere between 5 and 100? She said 25%. That's the goal. If you look at this report, there's only one city that meets that goal, Sugar Falls. None of the other cities, whether you're getting it at the curbside, automated, manual, are meeting that goal. In fact, 41 out of 59, or 2/3, are performing at or below the Beechwood rate of 13%. It's just a little more than double, maybe triple what we're doing. So I asked people, asked people who live in different parts of Cuyahoga County. I happen to work with lots of people. And I just said, how do you get your trash collected, where you live, and how do you like it? And then I followed some garbage trucks around. And what they said, some people really don't like automated, because they said when that arm shakes it in, and some, most of it gets in, but some of it leaves debris. They're oblivious to it because it's one guy in a truck automated. And I saw that. So that's just of interest. There's no perfect system, but we want to do the best we can do. Because like I said in the beginning, we want to increase our rates and we want to reduce our costs. So based on these general statistics, I want to quantify some goals in very basic phases. The first phase would be to stop the bleed. Instead of going down in our rate, let's go up to 6% and higher. And actually, I would like to see us do like Shaker and Pepper Pike, and after I share some of their practices, I think we may be able to, okay? And double our rate sooner than later. But here's the key, and this is what I'm going to focus on. I said in the beginning, this is an opt-in program. So if we know who is trying to opt in, because we see their blue bags. We drive up their driveways, we collect the bags, we put them at the corner, we know who's trying to recycle. I'm not a betting woman, but I would probably venture that they're like me, wishful recyclers and not doing a good job because they need to become more aware of what the current guidelines are. So I'll talk a little bit about some thoughts about how to address the low-hanging fruit, the people who are opting in, and how to maximize their recycling. I feel like we can get started even with blue bags, but I do want to talk about loose recycling in a minute. Okay, so I'm going to divide this into kind of two parts. First of all, are there any questions so far? I'm going to divide this into two parts. The first part is things we may be able to do sooner. And the second part is things that will require some thought and some action to, that I think are doable, and I'll put it out there for you to discuss. So right now, our scooters retrieve the blue bags and put them on the street corners to pick up later by their recycling truck, right? Right? Okay. Some of the blue bags don't make it to the corner. We've had people on council say, I've had neighbors say that, I put the blue bags and I see they throw them into the trash because I think the front gets full. It gets full pretty quickly and that's what happens. They have no more capacity, so they throw it in the truck, it's right there, and then they put the rest of them. So it's destined for landfill instead of recycle. One of the practices in Pepper Pike is that they dispatch both trucks at the same time. They put the, the solid waste truck, the garbage truck, and the recycling truck at the same time. Their scooters collect the blue bags, and by the way, they can only collect blue bags because it doesn't tilt, so they'll never be able to go to loose recycling unless they change their bids. But anyways, and they don't think they're going to do that for the foreseeable future. But they collect the blue bins in the front, just like we the blue bags, and they collect the solid waste in the back, but they go to the recycling truck first. So the recycling truck's right there, they put it in the recycling truck first, they maximize the blue bags getting off, it doesn't sit on the corner, and then the rest goes into solid waste, and they don't have to circle back. Okay, so I forgot what the manpower is. I know you went over that with me, but if we have two drivers and two Kubotas, we may be able to do that, and maybe it'll be more efficient also. So that's number one. He is, and actually, Mr. Advent took me in his pickup truck, and we went around and trashed, and we saw that in action, and I could see how all the blue bags went. Not one blue bag went into the garbage truck. Okay, so
Just
then,
to
yes, please.
comment on that, our recycling truck picks up the recycling in the afternoon. So that's why they're piled in the morning, because you only have a driver picking up in the afternoon.
What's he doing in the morning?
In the morning, he's doing other.
So I don't know, you might want to think about it though. If it's important to
Well,
try,
it
that
would
might
just mean
be
another
switch around.
4 hours. That's all.
We would, if we were to have a recycling truck like the garbage truck, we would need another recycling truck. We only have one.
Right.
So that's like $250,000.
You don't use the one that you would use in the afternoon, just use it in the morning?
No, because there we use more than one garbage truck at a time. So we only have one recycling truck.
So the truth
We got
is,
different crews on.
I wonder, I don't think we only have 4% recycling. I don't think it's a lot that you need 2 trucks yet. I would like to think we'll need 2 trucks.
I'm talking about the law, I'm talking about
I'm
a
curious.
situation that a recycling truck find the garbage truck like they do with Pepper Pike. In order to do that, Mr. Carney, how many crews do we have out at the time?
We have an A route and a B route, so we have a garbage truck with 2 Kubotas and another garbage truck with 2 Kubotas.
But we only have one recycling truck.
And B, right?
Right, so you need an A truck and a B truck. So
You would need
Well, you know what, I would
Percent.
suggest trying it with A. Why don't you try it once and see what happens? I don't know. You know, I don't know, start somewhere. But that's,
Well,
we're not gonna solve that here. I'm just letting you know what the practice is and what the result was. And it's up to you to kind of think if you want to try that or not, okay? Okay. So the other piece to this is, you know, again, this is an opt-in program, and these households are actually opting in, but maybe wishful recyclers. And so perhaps we can figure out, I don't know if this is a project for a JCU intern. I don't know if it's 1 week, you know, Monday through Thursday, where the service, the collectors have like a clipboard and they just check off the addresses, or even they just click and let's see how many people we have with blue bags in the city. What is the amount, what are the number of people that are currently opting in? I'd be interested and it would be an interesting thing. And if we know who they are, we could then have a follow-up where there could be some sort of targeted education and awareness to those homes, whether it's a flyer, whether it's somebody knocking on the door or something, to see if there's a way to get their attention to improve their habits. Please.
What do we have to suspect that we have significant level of contamination?
It's been said, I'll have to look at and see what the source was.
I asked Karen.
Yes.
And she stated that that solid waste district does not keep numbers for contamination. And that the only way that you can get numbers for contamination are by talking to the MERV and
I
asking,
spoke with the MERV, maybe that's where I got it.
and asking them to warn.
But I spoke to Don Johnson.
That was who she recommended.
Yeah, I spoke to him. So I'd have to look back, I don't want to say that he told me that, I'd have to look back in my notes, but that could be where I heard it. Okay, thank you. Let's see. The other thing, and this is kind of an aside, but it may help. I was reading through the study, and it says that the rubbish routes were last reviewed in 2004, which is quite a long time ago. And one of the recommendations from the study was to reevaluate the routes to improve efficiency, especially since family sizes have shifted, even since, it seems to me, since that was written. And just in terms of efficiencies, your A's, your B's, you know, there might be a way to improve on that, just to assess that. Now a word about actual recyclables. So after speaking with all these people, it is very clear to me that loose recycling is preferable to recycling in the blue bags. Okay? The reasons are, it lowers the cost to the city, it improves the risk management involved at the MRF. I didn't realize how dangerous a job it is, really, for them to physically open the bags. People put all kinds of things in there, broken glass, needles, just things metal. I would think even things that are recyclable, a can that has an edge is dangerous, and that's perfectly acceptable. So puts their workers at risk for injury. And loose recycling improves the approved recyclables that are sorted by the machines. So what I believe are challenges, but I don't believe it's insurmountable, I think it's something that we could do, is to figure out a way to do backyard trash collection, solid waste, and backyard loose recyclable collection. So, for instance, there are grants available through the Ohio EPA and some other places for if we want to retrofit our quotas or trash trucks, but let's talk about that, the quotas. If we have, instead of the cans in the front, a large bin that can tilt into the recycling truck. And again, I'm not an expert on this. I looked at it up close, but I know I'm going to be going to Shaker Heights this week, and they actually have a double bin in the front that tilts into a double truck. One side is trash, one side is, and I know that only because I was driving to work and I happened to drive behind trash, and I never noticed it before, and I was very like, oh my gosh, look at this. So there are just other options that are available, but even if we keep one bin into the recycling truck, that could work. Obviously, a 64 gallon container, I went to the store to look at the different size, that's too big to lift. But a 32 gallon is like a regular trash can, is that right? That's what it looked like to me. That could be lifted by the service workers if it was filled with loose recycling. The one thing that would be challenging is while it could accommodate small cardboard, it really couldn't accommodate large cardboard. Another practice that they have at Pepper Pike, which is, it's pretty interesting. I sat there in their service yard for a while. So they do have about a half dozen different types of bins lined up. We don't have that space right now, but it's something to think about with the facilities assessment. They've got the cardboard, they've got the recycling, they've got a solid waste in case people brought their garbage and they realized they couldn't, it says no styrofoam here, oh, well, I'll put it there. They've got clothing, they've got aluminum cans for burn victims through the fire department. They've got a bunch of things. And what they do once a day, maybe twice a day, is they have a backhoe, I think, stationed in the back of the cardboard truck. And their cardboard was spilling out, but then they had another backhoe push it in. And it went in about 75% of the way. And that way they could, it didn't spill out, they kept it neat, and it took them boom, 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 it moved on. And I asked, how often does it happen? And Ms. Radman said, oh, whenever, once a day, twice a day, whenever they feel it, they need it. The other very interesting thing is I asked him, well, having these bins here, doesn't this take away service? Because we're picking, you're picking to have this here. And he said, absolutely not, it adds the service. And to his point, while I sat there was a line of people nonstop who were throwing things in. And I think Pepper Pike was like maybe a couple times as big, but half the population, and yet they still had people doing that. He said people appreciate extra service and the opportunity to throw that for whatever reason. They had a big party, they're going out of town, who knows why they're doing that thing. Spring cleaning, I don't know. But definitely with the Amazon effect, that impacted my thought about all the cardboard, and if we really couldn't accommodate that at home, besides tying it up, that kind of thing, that may be something to consider. Their yard is not open 24/7, to your point. It's open until 2 o'clock on Friday, closes for the weekend, and then it opens up again at 7 o'clock, I think, on Monday morning. So that there's some control, people aren't just coming there and trashing it. It's very well kept. He said that he's sure that contributes to their double rate as well, because it's extra opportunity to recycle. So again, I've had lots of discussions. I'm willing to have more. I don't profess to know the answers. I'm just trying to figure out how we can get on the same page, now that we're on the same team, and find a way to come together to improve our recycling rate while not taking away the service of backyard trash collection. It will lower our costs, it will improve our rates, it could contribute to a little more civic pride. I would encourage people to continue to reach out. Let me know what you think, let the mayor know what you think. Copy us on the same email so we can continue the dialogue together. Also members of council and this committee, so that we can continue this discussion and discuss it together. So I want to ask if there are any committee thoughts, questions?
For the garbage collection, there are 2 trucks and 2 Kubotas, so 2 Kubotas per truck. But the recycling that goes through the afternoon, that's done by, would be one of those 6 workers or a separate person.
Not one of those 6 workers, they stay on the route pretty much all day.
Okay.
Separate truck, separate guy, goes and picks up the recycling.
Yeah.
And he follows in the afternoon, the A route or the B route.
Yeah, they have a stage.
Correct.
Do they have, is it, 2 trucks, 2 Kubotas, or what's there?
Two, recycling, garbage and 2
On either route,
Kubotas.
so
I want to say 1, I think it's 1, but I could be wrong, I'll have to ask him.
Yeah.
It's larger, it's widespread,
Yeah.
but it's not, so I can circle back to him.
I was just curious as to, how is this more dense versus nice compared to that way?
I'm trying to compare, but I
Yeah,
didn't
I mean,
compare
it's,
that
I know
piece.
you're.
Yeah, let me look into it.
Again, this would be.
So they have about half of our households.
I'm sorry?
It looks like they have about half of our households.
Yes, exactly.
22, 128.
Mhm.
Just I'm curious what the similarities may be versus the differences.
Similarities with the backyard trash, the blue bags, the double rate, though, is not similar, it's superior. He drove up, the way that it's in the backyard, he drove up into his property.
Right.
It's similar. He's very big on education, and he's very big on putting things on the website, even the signage. I just tried to describe the different bins. It'll say like, put your styrofoam here, don't put your styrofoam here, whatever the flavor is of that day, whatever the issue is. He said he changes it, depending on what they see in their own little waste studies. So he tries to have good signage that's very direct.
With what is collected from backyard, do those get moved to the bins that are on their site? The recyclables
Yeah.
that are collected from backyard,
Yes,
where do they go?
okay. They go right into the front. They have one large,
Right.
but it's affixed.
Right.
And then it drives to the recycling truck first. They throw it in, and then they turn around and clear the garbage.
For those that are put on the truck, those recyclables, does that get taken to the roof?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so I'm wondering what the difference would be as to what they collect at the yard versus what's collected on the truck.
Yes.
you know,
But you said that they don't, Councilman King said they don't really assess that.
oh, that way,
Oh, at the MRF they do, okay.
Yeah, I only said the contamination is only, the only way we'll find out about contaminations if we ask for it.
so when they pick up the bins that are at the service yard, gather their permit, get the weight of the materials. Would be collected.
With the weight, that's a good question.
What percentage of that is at the yard of those bins compared to percentage of the work?
All right.
Mr. Rory, you have any answer to that? When is the recycling?
We have a very similar process. Any paper that goes into the paper bin or the recycling bin, then at the end of the day, gets dumped into our recycling truck.
Mhm.
The weight comes with the
Oh.
recycling truck.
That might be what happens.
Okay, yeah, so.
It might all go together. Oh, yes.
Yeah, they.
Yeah, but why would they take 2 trips? Right. Well, that's,
No, that makes sense. That makes sense.
couple other comments. And I'd like to just give my thought about this. You know, given some thought about the proposal to purchase, 4,000 64-gallon recycling bins for automated curbside recycling collection. And I thought a lot about this because I know it's been just a source of debate, discussion, upset, all kinds of emotions. And what came to my mind is, it felt to me like the plan was, if you build it, they will come. If you provide 4,000 bins to every household, people will automatically wheel their bins to the curb. They'll intuitively know how to recycle correctly without contamination. Our rates will automatically improve. I'm not so sure that with opting in, that would be maximized. Perhaps at some point in the future, when we can demonstrate, that could be. But the truth is, there are people who are currently recycling correctly, and they take pride in it. And for them, they've told me that they will not be able to, whether they're willing or not, they simply will not be physically be able to take it down their driveway and this big bin and pull it down to be recycled at the curb. Whereas they're able to do that in their backyard. And then you have the split, the dual system of some at the curb, some in the back. And I wonder how many people who opt in now who will not necessarily use the bins in that manner, if that'll make our rate go backwards. The other thing that actually was told to me by the gentleman at the MRF is that people who don't opt in use it for garbage cans. They just do. And I don't know how he knows that, but he said that to me. And if you're putting recycling in a recycling bin and the service collectors are thinking it's recyclables, but it's solid waste, you've got a problem. Got a different problem. We need the education, we need the awareness, and we need to give people the tools that they will be able to practically use, which I believe, again, I'll restate this. We want recycling to improve. We are going to be doing it in the backyard, and we want it to be loose. How can we achieve all of that? I do not think it's insurmountable. I think it's something we can do. And I would like to work together to figure out how to do that. Any other questions or comments?
I just want to thank you, Councilwoman. I mean, the amount of research and time that you have spent on this is incredible.
I really enjoyed talking to people. Surprisingly.
I'm anxious to
It
hear,
was my nature.
I'm anxious to hear about Shaker. And Mr. Percorni, do you have relationships like mayors have, city?
Yeah.
So you probably know the other service directors and state with them.
Yeah, Penny Speaks runs their
Yes.
works department.
She seems really she's very welcoming. Everybody's very welcoming. it's nice. Yeah. I look forward to meeting her.
I would
and Chris
encourage
Gordon.
you to stop at our office,
I would love to. Thanks for the invitation.
because we do have that same stream of people coming through recycling. Our bin does fill up back with a backhoe sometimes. Most of the time, we push it through and load the truck rather than handling it twice.
Fantastic. I'm glad to hear
Those
that.
things we have to do every day.
Because I've only seen the pictures of it spilling out. So I didn't know that you also do that.
Sherry?
Yes. A different pool. Yes, Justin.
So,
Jay.
you asked kind of the question parts, those things that are longer term solution or longer term ideas and those that are more short term. And so I just wanted to kind of respond to that call for comment. I think on the short term, education, I think, is something we can implement almost immediately, continue those efforts. I know we've already done some of that, including the door-to-door drop a couple years ago. But I think we went door to door with a bag of recyclable items and a magnet. Mike Cook made reference to those leftover magnets I think at the last council meeting. So there are some of those still left. But, in terms of summer programming, I really think we could put together a really impactful series of summer programs for the public based on the conversation we had last time. And I don't think that would take much expenditure of money or logistics. I think that these are kind of pre-put together programs that various entities have, and I think that we could do that more immediately. I think the second thing that we need to kind of act on is the mayor's call and really notification that the consortium is not or may not go back out to bid. My understanding is that you've had conversations with individuals, including Pepper Pike, who are not going to be changing the way that they do their recycling collection away from blue bags. And I think having an understanding as a committee as to what our options are, speaking with both MRFs and with representatives from this consortium about what we can and cannot expect, what we might be able to still achieve given our current system, I think is a more immediate concern, because I think that'll dictate how fast we have to move on those other issues. And then for long-term solutions, I think I just want to really commend you for the work that you've done in going around and speaking to so many different entities. I think it's just fantastic. I think what's clear to me is that there's no one certain solution. Hey, we can just implement Shaker Heights system, or we can just implement Pepper Pike system. It's not going to work that way. But I think what it highlights is that there are various options since we're not changing from backyard collection, that we can attempt to implement here to make things better. Will it be a perfect system? Perhaps not. Will it be better? I think it could be. And I think that the work that you've done to gather this information on the way it's done elsewhere will help us kind of find the University Heights way, if there is a way to amend the things that we do right now. So that's what I would just say in response to your question. I'd like to hear from the MRF. I'd like to hear from the consortium. And I'd like to see what we can do about implementing those recycling education programs, specifically composting and water barrels, and some of the how to recycle education for youth that we discussed at our last meeting.
Thank you. Please.
I just wanted to say, I've talked to Shaker, I'm Jackie, by the way, I live on it. I have talked to Shaker as well, and they give their residents 5-gallon buckets. They give them as many buckets as they need for recycling, and then they're dumped into the Kubota type parts that come to their bag. So that's kind of how they do it. The other thing they do is they open their service area, and I know that's a problem for us, but they open their service area on Saturday and Sunday, and it's monitored, and they have people who come from the community and drop off their recyclables in that way. So those are the two things that they do. So I wanted to say that. And I wanted to say how much I appreciate the work that you do. It's incredible, all the information that you've got about recycling. And I just hope that we're able to figure this out. I also called South Euclid because I couldn't really understand. If you drive down Belvoir and you see these houses that are on, it looks like, a 90-degree angle practically from the street. I don't understand how they get down to the sidewalk. And I asked, this is just a person who answered the phone for recycling, and she said they just do it. There's no special arrangements. They do suggest that the elderly get in touch with the aging consortium to provide some services, but for the most part, they just do it, which I was shocked about. I don't even know how to drive what they drive, let alone bring a 60-gallon carton. So I just wanted to.
I don't know if they have assistants that they pay for, or if they do it themselves, or children, or grandchildren, who knows?
It's
Right,
not
people do
provided.
that, but at this point, in the absence of people really knocking down the doors and saying they want curbside pickup, there's no reason to really believe that, an email here or someone saying it there is one thing, but unless we really know that's what our taxpayers want, this is the reality for now.
And just the last thing about the carts, or at least somewhere to drop off recyclables. I know we don't have a lot of space, but I think that is one of the things that we really need to figure out how to do, because I think that there are people who want to do the right thing. I know people say that all the time about recycling, but I think that people who really want to recycle, they're going to do it, and they're going to do it well, and dropping it off for them, I think that addresses some issues for some people. So,
Thank you.
You have another rule, a new rule. And I wanted to comment that if we focus on improving recycling, then those blue bags that we see on the street were very important. I actually counted from that account. And although we can't tell how many people recycle, and I'll explain that in a minute, you can tell that those are the ones that are opted in. So if you want to improve the percentage of usable, actual recyclable materials, then taking into consideration the actual volume of that is important. Jackie being an ambassador and me being a puzzled observer, we have discussions all the time about it. I can tell you, I have a lot of questions about what's actually recycling. But the fact is that we only submit a blue bag for recycling in about a couple of weeks. So that's the volume, that's the size of a container that we actually would need. So then every 2 weeks, the size of a blue bag. We don't need a 32-gallon. We put ourselves in a 32-gallon container for that, but it doesn't. I can't imagine how long it would take to actually fill one. We have recycled material for a month before we work it with it. So I think that having some way to recycle those items at a location would be much more convenient for us. Trying to store all that stuff like that there. just don't need that much volume. The people on our street, our area, I counted 9 blue bags on our block. I went around, I didn't see any neighborhoods that had more than about a dozen blue bags. But even if they did have a dozen blue bags, our whatever, rather than focus on the actual percentage, I got it done from the city, and I don't know what it means, but it's important. If you want to improve it, then you have to improve the materials that go into those bags. And I think that that's going to require some education. It's going to require someone who's actually overseeing the process. It's going to require periodic updating of the information, because actually the nurse are selling materials. That's how they make their money. So if we're not giving them something to sell, and periodically they'll have a customer come in and change what they want to buy, then we would be getting back to the same position we were in already before. So I would like to see us try to build a culture, try to encourage a culture of recycling in university guys, but I think we not only improve the materials that were submitted, percentage of materials that are submitted, I think we can lead rather than follow.
Thank you to all the fools. I'd just like to comment on your comments. First of all, you live with an ambassador, so you probably don't have that much recycling because you're probably reducing what you're buying. Okay, you're probably ahead of what other people are, but also it depends on family size and a lot of other factors, the age of the people in family, what they're using and abusing, all that stuff. The other thing you just actually gave me an idea or a thought. By having the bins, that also reduces some cost. Okay, because we're not necessarily buying, maybe people don't want those bins in their place, I don't know. But also, maybe you saw the same amount on different corners, because like I said in my remarks, sometimes the voters run out of room and they just throw the blue bags into the solid waste rather than on the corner, because they need to be efficient. They've got a lot to do in a short time. And so they only have so much capacity by virtue of the size. So maybe that's the capacity you're seeing. It's the same, not because it's really the same, but I don't know.
Well, to be clear, I wasn't referring so much to there being the same volume, because you don't know if we're going to be submitting ours every couple of weeks, then everybody on the block could be an option recycle, but they just don't need that much volume in order to recycle. Sure.
I guess the other challenge is, and maybe through education and outreach through different like-minded residents to, I was talking about focusing on people who are opting in. Maybe we need to really focus on people who are not opting in and trying to encourage them and help them understand the value. And, there's so many aspects to the value of this.
Well, that's building a culture.
Yeah,
I think
thank you.
in order to be able to build that culture, you have to have active people involved in recycling. I think that the service department is going to be integrally involved. I think that they do it. Need to, the best way to do it.
That is a great point. Where in all the different positions that I've worked in, and I've worked in some high-level positions, I've always reached out to the employees, my supervisees, the people who are providing whatever service it is, and ask them to brainstorm, ask them for their opinions, their insights, because a lot of times they see things that we don't see because their hands are in it. I wonder if there's some value to having a meeting with the service personnel and asking their ideas and their perspective. They might have some interesting insight that it doesn't bubble up or bubble out. They're just doing their job and moving on. Maybe they have some thoughts too. So to your point, that could be very valuable. Thank you. Anybody else? Well, I want to thank you for your patience. This is quite a long spiel. I want to encourage people once again, let your neighbors know this is recorded, right? To just start the conversation. Keep the emails coming, give us your feedback. Did you think any of this works? Not, let people know what we're starting to discuss. And I think we can benefit from hearing as many voices as possible to just move this forward already. We've been sitting on this a very long time. Thank you. And is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn. I think it was a wonderful meeting, did a lot of homework. Appreciate it. It's just astounding. So motion to adjourn.
Do the other committee members?
I'll second.
Or do we have to stay here? Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Yeah.